Sorry, late. Everybody, how's everybody doing today?
Doing good, how are you doing?
You're fine, thank you.
Okay, I'd first like to thank you guys for sitting on our interview committee for our third grade bilingual teacher. The first thing I'm going to go ahead and give you guys is a copy of the questions we'll be asking our candidates. You're welcome. When we're asking the questions, we need to go ahead and make sure we read the questions to the candidates word for word. The candidate will have 10 minutes for the entire interview. Do we have somebody that could be our timekeeper?
I can do it.
Okay, great. If you could go ahead and time the candidates, go ahead and let them know when they have 2 minutes left in the interview. I've also got a copy of the matrix we will be using to rank our candidates. Okay. At the end of the interviews, we'll go ahead and rank all our candidates and we'll come out with our top 3 choices. Okay? Okay. Do we have any questions? No. Okay. Mr. Burgundy, if you could go ahead and let our first candidate in, should be Mr. Robert Mata. Thank you.
Mr. Mata, we're ready for you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Robert Mata.
Good morning, Ms. Fernandez.
Hello,
Good morning.
Mr. Mata. Nice to meet you.
Good morning, Mr. Burgundy. Robert Mata.
Mr. Mata, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for applying for our third grade bilingual position.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Ms. Schmidt. I am the principal here at Artcraft Elementary.
I'm Mr. Burgundy. I'm an ESL teacher here.
I'm Steve Fernandez, assistant principal.
And I'm Claudia Medina, assistant principal.
Okay, what you have in front of you are a copy of the 10 questions we will be asking you. We will be asking you in round robin fashion. You will have 10 minutes for the interview. Our timekeeper, Mr. Fernandez, will go ahead and let you know when you have 2 minutes left. Okay, do you have any questions at this time?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we'll go ahead and give you some time to go ahead and look over the questions. Just go ahead and let us know when you're ready.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Okay? Okay, timekeeper ready? Okay, tell us about your experience in bilingual education.
Okay, my experience in bilingual education goes back about 10 years. In the classroom, I've done dual language, and I've been the English component for 5 years. I've done the Spanish component for 5 years. And all have been in elementary settings.
Okay, so talk about the strategies or approaches that you use in teaching first and second languages, culture and content areas.
Okay, so some of the approaches that I take is I use A+ RISE strategies. I believe in scaffolding my instruction for second language learners. And not just second language learners, but all learners. A print-rich environment really helps with most ESL students. And I like focusing on multiple intelligences.
Okay, Mr. Mata, talk about some of the successes you have seen with your students.
Okay, so some of the successes that I've had with my students in the past is I will give my students a reading assessment and figure out which level they're reading at. And throughout the year, my job is to make sure I move those students multiple grade levels or reading levels until I get them at reading level or above. I've also had success with the STAR exam where my students have met the standard. And in the situations where I have not had students who meet the standard, I spent many hours putting in tutoring. Very well. As a bilingual teacher, what have you learned from your mistakes? Things that I've learned from my mistakes, I think the most important is to be flexible. Sometimes the best lesson plans in the world and things come up, assemblies come up, candy sales, something's going to happen. Another thing that I've learned a lot from my mistakes is you have to be humble. You have to be able to show the kids that you make mistakes too, and you're learning in the classroom just like they are. And you have to be willing to try new stuff and not be afraid of failure sometimes. Thank you. Sure.
Okay, tell us about a lesson that was not going as planned and what you did to achieve the desired outcome.
A lesson that did not go as planned was, I remember it was a science lesson that I had worked very hard on over the weekend and put a great lab together. And as I was teaching my lesson, I noticed no one was listening, no one was paying attention. Kids were playing around with their pencils in their shoes. At first I thought maybe it was me, and then I started taking it kind of personal, but then I realized maybe they're just not understanding what I'm saying. So I had to switch and try a different way to approach the kids. So I switched over to a reading strategy called visualization, and I had the kids start focusing on vocabulary and drawing pictures of the vocabulary words for me. And in the end, it pulled it all together pretty nice.
Okay. All right, so a student just came from another country and was placed into your class. Where do you begin with them?
Okay, well, I've dealt with this situation many times in my 10 years. I need to run a battery of assessments and figure out where we're starting. Immediately, I'd like to take a writing sample before I give any instruction, just to see where their start is. And then I'd like to give a spelling assessment called a QSI, which is an inventory that lets me assess which of the 5 spelling levels they're at. And then ultimately I'll DRA them and give them the reading assessment, find their reading level, and I'll conclude usually with a conference and just listen to the child.
Okay, what is your bilingual program philosophy?
I've been through lots of bilingual programs. I think the one in the end that I've settled on is the 50-50 bilingual. If you have a good partnership and your partners work together and you plan together and you're on the same page and you have fidelity to the program, I think within 5 to 7 years it can yield excellent results, and it's support in native and second language. I've had success with other programs, but that one seems to have worked the best for me.
What are some of the strategies that you use with your English language learners?
Okay, well, we talked about some earlier with ARISE strategy, scaffolding, instruction. But the other one that I mentioned was the multiple intelligences, and I like to start off by giving a Gardner's multiple intelligence test, which lets me figure out which intelligence the students are strongest at. And then I'll put them into groups so that they can work with different intelligences in project-based learning, so that there's support and everybody feels like they're contributing to the projects. And I've noticed that in project-based learning, ELL learners, SPED students, GTs, everybody just becomes one. It's hard to pick them apart.
Okay. Communication with parents is a crucial part of education, especially in bilingual education. How do you communicate with parents?
Okay, well, I normally send a newsletter home every week, just to keep parents up to breast as to what we did this past week, and then new strategies and topics that we'll be covering the upcoming week. I'll use email. I make phone calls if necessary. I've recently become a little bit more tech savvy and started using text. My past classroom showed me how to do that. And on several occasions I've had to make home visits because I worked in communities where people don't have cars or gasoline. And so I'll go to them.
Okay, so what makes you the most qualified for the job?
Well, I think I'm the most qualified for this job because I have lots of experience with dual language programs. And I think the most important thing for me is I'm a native Spanish speaker myself and an ELL learner, so I can see where these kids are coming from. And being Latino myself, I think I can relate to them culturally and to some of the experiences of them crossing the border and coming into our school and being put into English programs. And so I can kind of help them assimilate.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Smith, at this time, this concludes the questions we have for you. Do you have any questions for us?
No, ma'am, I just want to thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to hopefully working with you all in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mr. Mata.
Thanks
It
for
was a
coming.
pleasure, thank you.
Excuse me, thank you. Good meeting you.
Pleasure.
Nice meeting you.
Yes, sir.
Nice meeting
It
you.
was a pleasure, thank you.
Pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
Right this way, Mr. Mata.
Thanks, sir.
What do you guys see as some of the strengths Mr. Mata showed us?
Well, I mean, I like that he has 10 years of experience, you know, that's a good chunk. Where strategies were concerned, he seemed to know what he was talking about, you know, and quite obviously he's implemented the strategies, you know. He talks about the multiple intelligences, which I think are crucial, you know, I do believe in mixing, you know, the lower with the middle, the upper, you know, as far as acquisition of the language. So I liked that. You all know that I'm a strong believer of immersion, so the 50-50 I'm not so crazy about, but you know, that's out of his control, so.
Yeah, I thought he was real knowledgeable in all the bilingual programs. He knew all of them. He was real involved and he had a lot of energy. I really liked that he had a lot of energy, and it seemed like he would do what needed to be done to get those kids to learn. I mean, if it was either after school, before school, bring them in, do any extra work, he was always there. So I really liked his energy. I think that's what stuck out for me the most.
I agree with you. I also liked his energy. One thing that stood out to me most was his flexibility. He mentioned how he has been in situations where he has made mistakes and he has been wrong, but he's been able to correct them using different strategies. That's one thing that I noticed. He seems to be very innovative, so I really like that. And overall, I think he did well.
Okay.
I liked how he addressed the student coming from another country, because, you know, we know with our ELL population here that, you know, happens frequently, and he knew right away where he would begin with the students, what he would do first. And he took us through the entire process of getting the writing sample, doing the spelling test, doing the DRA, and then even, you know, throwing in the conferencing with the student. I thought that was really important, and I really liked how he brought the student into the assessment as well. I also liked his communication with parents. As we all know here, you know, a lot of our parents aren't always so easy to get a hold of calling, and he's willing to go do those home visits if need be.
Yeah, you know, with the other two candidates, I think they were a little stumped with the initial, you know, the question number 6, when the student comes in from another country. I think they were kind of stumped with the initial process, the first step, you know, in how to assess them and how to get them where they need to be. And with Mr. Mata, he hit it on the ball. He knew exactly where to begin, what assessments needed to be done, and, you know, like you said, he included the students in it, you know, so I really liked that. I thought the other two candidates were not very clear on that. And, you know, that concerns me, because we need to find a level at where to start teaching these kids, right? I mean, they can't just move forward with whatever instruction, here you go. No, we need to assess them and be absolutely certain to where they stand and what they know, what they don't know, and what level they're at. So I really like that about him. And the other two candidates didn't have that, so
Yeah, like you
that's
said,
something to consider.
like you said before, the other two candidates, they just didn't have enough experiences. I mean, 10 years, that is a lot, and he was very knowledgeable with all the programs. So he's been through everything before, everything that we're looking for.
Right, and then, you know, with ELL, with as big as our population is, you know, I think we need to go with somebody that knows what they're doing. I mean, this is a major factor in our at-risk, you know, student population. It's a major factor in our accountability. You know, last year was a little rough with the ELLs, so, you know, we need to pick somebody that knows what they're doing. Yeah, strong person, yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and fill out our matrix then, and then we'll come up with our top 3 candidates and submit those.
Okay.
Sounds good.